Hello, Disney fans! As of March 20th, spring is here. I think it's safe to say everybody is glad about that. And I thought it would be a good idea to talk about a movie that deals with how spring arrives. And that movie is Tinkerbell. You probably know Tinkerbell from the Peter Pan movies. The original Peter Pan and then the sequel that was made years later, Return to Neverland. I remember the first time I ever saw Peter Pan being a little disappointed that Tinkerbell wasn't in it a lot more. Because Tinkerbell is a Disney icon. I mean, she's as much a mascot for Disney as Mickey Mouse and Jiminy Cricket. You've seen all three of them used in a lot of Disney specials to promote things, and I remember as a kid watching The Wonderful World of Disney come on, and you would see Tinkerbell flying over the Magic Kingdom with a magic wand and making things happen. And so to me, Tinkerbell kind of was Disney. And she really wasn't in the movie as much as I thought she'd be. But it was decided to give her her own movie and her own franchise, based on a bunch of books that were written about her. Now, this story actually deals with a lot that Peter Pan left out, starting with where fairies come from. This was discussed in the original play by J.M. Barrie, but it wasn't mentioned in the animated movie.
When the first baby laughed for the first time, the laugh broke into 1,000 pieces, and they all went skipping about. And that was the beginning of fairies. So now every time a new baby is born, his first laugh becomes a fairy.
There are a lot of really interesting stories about, I want to call them mythology almost, about the Fae, about fairies. As far as I can tell, the story of them being born from a child's laugh was the creation of J.M. Barrie himself. I wasn't able to find any other stories about fairies that confirm that, but I think that's a really neat idea to show how they were kind of destined to bring joy into the world. They are created by joy. Although, if you know Fae literature and all the different stories about the Fae, there's a lot of different types of them. But this is a really neat version of that, I think. And when Tinkerbell arrives at Pixie Hollow, the home of the fairies, Queen Clarion herself greets her and points out that she is born of laughter, that it's joy that created her.
Born of laughter, clothed in cheer, happiness has brought you here. Welcome to Pixie Hollow.
Queen Clarion is a gentle and wise leader, and she shows great compassion to all the fairies. She's almost a mother to them, very caring. And after she greets Tinkerbell, she tries to explain that she's going to find her talent now. Every fairy has something special, their special gift, their talent. There's the garden fairies who make the plants grow. There's the light fairies who, they're in charge of creating rainbows and how they use the lights of the sunset to give fireflies light and all kinds of things like that. There's the water talents who do everything from create the rain to stringing dewdrops on spider webs. Everyone has their own special talent. And the symbols of those talents appear, and Tinkerbell has to walk among them and find out which one calls to her. What's going to be her gift? The talent that Tinkerbell is destined to have is, of course, being a tinker, and she's chosen by the Tinker's Hammer. You can kind of guess that by her name. It's not really that much of a challenge to guess. But now the neat thing is that hammer glows for her brighter than any of the fairies have seen any of the symbols for the talents glow for any other fairy, including fast flying fairy Vidya, which you can tell makes her a little jealous when that's pointed out to her. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Vidya later, but she's not the most pleasant of the fairies. Being a Tinker Fairy, Tinkerbell's going to be shown around by two members of her talent guild, Bobble and Clink. And they talk to her about what being a tinker is all about.
We fiddle and fix.
We craft and create.
We carve acorn buckets.
To hold flower paint.
We saddles and satchels.
For birdies, you see.
Make baskets and bushels.
To carry the
Tinkerbell has arrived at a very important time because everybody is busy getting ready for spring. And the Tinkers are a major part of that. As you heard them talking about, they help pretty much every group of fairies. They make the baskets that hold the paint for the fairies who paint the flowers. They make the baskets for the animal talents to use to carry the seeds around, even though the garden fairies would take care of gathering the seeds. Everybody works together. And the Tinkers help pretty much every other fairy. So they have a major role in helping spring to come. Tinkerbell goes out with Bobble and Clank to help them with their work and gets shown around a little when they run into some trouble. They get attacked by the sprinting thistles, a type of weed that has very sharp leaves that can cut and do major damage. They stampede, they are a general nuisance. You can tell they have caused trouble in Pixie Hollow before. They are an absolute menace. Tinkerbell almost gets hurt by them, and a bunch of other fairies come to see how she's doing. They include Iridescent the Light Fairy, Rosetta the Garden Fairy, Fawn the Animal Talent Fairy, Silver Mist the Water Fairy, the Water Talent Fairy. They aren't all that great at being medical fairies, though.
Red. Wait. Okay, if she's red, raise the head. If she's pale, raise the tail. Does she look pale or red? She looks squished.
Iridescent meant well, at least. Now, all of these fairies are about to become very close friends. But there's one other fairy that Tinkerbell notices and is really impressed by. She sees Vidya using her winds, and she tries to strike up a friendship with her. She sees somebody who, to her, is incredibly talented. And she's even more impressed when Vidya describes all that her winds do. They help pretty much fairies of every talent, and Tinkerbell uses that to try to strike up a bond, saying, "Oh, we're the same. We both help every kind of fairy." Vidya doesn't see it like that.
I make forces of nature. You make pots and kettles. I work up in the sky, and you work down in a ditch.
Tinkerbell is as hurt by this as you would expect. And, that's especially hard seeing as how she admired Vidya. Her spirit slipped a little when she flies down to the beach and she notices a whole bunch of things that wash there from what the fairies call the mainland, our world. She is absolutely fascinated by them.
Hey, Tink, what you got there?
Oh, hi. I don't know. I just found her.
There's something special about seeing Tinkerbell so fascinated by human things. It almost reminds me of The Little Mermaid. It's not that Tinkerbell wishes she was human the way Ariel did, but here is a magical being who looks at things from our world and she sees magic in them. It just shows how a different perspective can work. Things that are common every day to us are even garbage, like a broken spring she found. Those things to her are treasures. I like the idea of, the reverse of it, how there's just something that makes us look at our world in another way. I think when we see a fairy or a mermaid look at a human thing and they find wonder in it. I think of how when we're children, how many things do we think are special that later as adults, we aren't interested in anymore. You take a kid and they can find something that spent on a used bottle could become a toy telescope, or um, you know, um, a few broken crayons could be arranged to make a castle with the points on. All kinds of little things that a kid can look at creatively. That's the gift that Tinkerbell has. And to me, that's a part of connecting to her character and looking back on the magic of our own childhood. She really is like a child. She sees things in a new way, a creative way. And that's one of the things that I really love about her as a character. Unfortunately, Tinkerbell learns she's not going to the mainland. Tinkers don't do that. There's no real need for them there. Their job is at Pixie Hollow making the things that the other talents use. Tinkerbell gets the idea to try to change her talent. She doesn't have much luck as a water fairy.
Hey, I did it.
She tries being a light talent next. That doesn't go so well when she tries passing out the light to the fireflies and gets it stuck to her own bottom.
Fly, Tink, fly! Uh-oh.
She doesn't have any better luck when she tries to teach a baby bird to fly and be an animal talent fairy.
Just flap your wings like this. No, none of that.
I always get a laugh out of that baby bird's reaction. No, I'm going back in the egg, forget you. Well, Tinkerbell makes the mistake of thinking she'll get some advice from somebody else who looks like they're doing really well at flying. Problem is that somebody else is a hawk. Hawks like to eat fairies. She attracts the hawk's attention, and while nobody gets hurt, after that everybody's like, yeah, enough is enough of you trying to be another talent. Tinkerbell is depressed by this until she finds parts of a music box on the beach. She figures out how to put it together almost instantly. And she has fun doing it, and she enjoys the result of that. There's just something beautiful about seeing her dance with that music box ballerina. And it is beautifully shown, it's gorgeous to look at. But I think there's something else there. To me, it's the joy that she finds in doing it. And there's a sense of wonder in the music box. And there's a sense of joy in what she accomplished by fixing it. And the other fairies try to point that out to her.
You don't even realize what you're doing? You're tinkering. What? No.
The other fairies, they remind her this is what she loves to do. She doesn't enjoy being a water talent or an animal talent, a light talent. Rosetta tells her, I'm not even going to try to teach you to be a garden talent, because this is what you love to do, and you know that deep down. Who cares about the mainland? But Tinkerbell isn't ready to accept that, and she makes the mistake of going to Vidya. This is her last chance to change her talent, and she's hoping Vidya will teach her to be a fast flying fairy like her. Yeah, should have known better than to trust Vidya. Vidya tells her, well, if you really want to change your talent, you could be a garden talent fairy if you round up the spinning thistles. This is a task she knows is impossible, even for the best of the garden talent fairies. It can't be done. And when Tinkerbell tries, it ends in disaster. The stampede ruins months of work to get everything ready to bring spring to the mainland. There is zero chance of getting everything redone on time. Tinkerbell naturally feels terrible about this, and she's ready to run away from Pixie Hollow. Terrence, the Dustkeeper Fairy, has a talk with her, and he tells her that he's surprised she even remembered his name, because he's just a Dustkeeper Fairy.
Talking about? You're probably the most important one there is. Without you, no one would have any magic. Why, your talent makes you who you are. You should be proud of it.
I am.
It finally sinks in with Tinkerbell that she needs to be proud of who she is. Her talent makes her who she is, the same as Terrence's talent makes him who he is. She points out to him that, without him, nobody would be doing anything. The same is true of Tinkers. Everybody's talent is important, whether they go to the mainland or not. And once she starts to use her own talent, she comes up with a whole bunch of inventions that can do the work that it took all the other fairies months to do in one night to get everything ready for spring on time. Vidya, of course, is against this and points out that Tinkerbell was the one who caused this problem.
Well, I tried to help you. Maybe I should have told you to capture the hawk instead of the thistles.
Busted. Yeah, she is caught and there is no getting out of it. Everybody knows now that Vidya is just as much to blame for what happened as Tinkerbell is. Queen Clarion gives her the punishment of rounding up all the spreading thistles and getting them back where they belong. That's gonna take her a while. Meanwhile, Tinkerbell's inventions work, and it's really impressive when you consider that they do months of work overnight. For example, one fairy mentions it takes her about 15 minutes to paint a ladybug. Tinkerbell's painting machine does it in just a couple of seconds. With all that time saved, they make their deadline. And, as a reward, Tinkerbell does get to go to the mainland. She's given the job of returning the music box to the little girl who lost it.
Mommy, guess what? Guess what? Yes, Wendy? What is it?
Nice touch with having the girl be Wendy and having the music box play You Can Fly from Peter Pan. Like I've said in other reviews, I love details. I'll focus on them more than the main plot. Now, the main plot of this is pretty straightforward. Tinkerbell wants to change what she is. And I think this movie gives a really great lesson. You see a lot of stories where the moral is just, If you keep practicing at something hard enough, you'll make it. You'll turn out to be great at that. Maybe not. You could work all your life at something and still not be good at it, maybe. Because maybe that's not your thing. You could be terrible at playing a musical instrument, maybe. But you might be the person who could take a laptop that's been deep fried by a virus and thrown off a building, put it back together, and have it run perfectly. Maybe you're terrible at technology, but maybe you're an excellent cook, or maybe you can write wonderful stories. Maybe you're a great painter or sculptor. Everybody has their own thing that they're good at. And it's okay if you're not good at something else. Be proud of what you can do. There's a saying going around Facebook, it's been attributed to Einstein, but my research shows he probably wasn't the one that said this. But that doesn't make it any less of a great quote. Everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree, he'll go through life thinking he's stupid. Instead of focusing on what you can't do, be proud of what gifts you do have. There's magic in that. Until next time, remember the magic.